Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Vanessa and I'm an author from Toronto, Canada, and I publish under the pen name Sage. I do a lot of videos on here about the business of writing, tips for writing, and just different things that I like and enjoy being an author and having put out about 17 books. I always forget the count, but I think we're at 17 books right now, and I'm writing another one as we speak. So I've learned a lot along the way. I was mostly indie published up until recently. So there's a lot of things that I've done behind the scenes on my own, and I am here to share those tips with you if you are starting out or you're kind of going through the journey of being an author. So if that sounds like something that you want to see more of, then make sure that you're subscribed and that you hit the bell notification so you don't miss any new videos. Now, we've done a lot of like fun and cute kind of videos lately, like planner stuff. And then we had like an unboxing haul. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, from some really cute like Miniso Sanrio items that I'm obsessed with. But I wanted to talk more about the business of writing and have another video where I talk to you about some tips for writing. And I've been getting a lot of questions about author websites, where to start, what to look for, and some general tips that I might have for people for creating or for hiring someone to create an author website for you. And I have a lot of those because I've made a few mistakes with my author websites. I do create all my own websites. I use personally Squarespace for my websites, for some of them, the majority of them, just because it's easier for me, but there are a lot of different options on there. The first thing that I actually think that you should think about is what I just mentioned, which is where you want your author website to live. There's different options out there, but the two really big popular ones that offer some sort of ease of use are WordPress and Squarespace. There is a vast difference between the two. Squarespace is more user-friendly, in my opinion. It's if you need something that's a bit more complicated, it's a lot easier to use because it's mostly drag and drop. WordPress, you can have a really good basic website on it fairly easily, but if you want something super complicated, or if you need different types of pages, then you really need to know what you're doing, and you need to code for the most part to make it look exactly how you want it to look. The interface is less intuitive, I would say, than Squarespace is. And just in general, from having used both, I tend to lean towards Squarespace more if you're going to be designing your own website and you don't know what you're doing at all. However, WordPress is a lot less expensive. So if what you really need is something very basic where you're just going to have a couple of pages, maybe even just one page, then go with WordPress because it will be cheaper. And then you can always transition to a different one or have somebody that you hire to build a kind of more complex website for you down the line. When you're starting out, inexpensive is always better because you don't know if you're going to have the money to bootstrap this whole writing adventure, right? However, if you do have a little bit of spare cash, then go with Squarespace because you could probably get like a much cleaner, nicer looking website that's more intuitive to use, so you can continue to upload and refresh it as you see fit without having to pay somebody to code for you or design for you. And as you're working on the website, you also want to think about your domain name. So you want a custom domain name. Make sure that when you're picking it, like for me, for example, ansage.com was actually taken. Luckily, I live in Canada, so I could have .ca. But you want a domain name that is as simple as possible and the closest to your pen name or your author name. If you have to add the books to it, then do that, but try to get it as clean as possible so it's easier for people to type in. And so it's easier for you to come up in search results. And when you do get your domain name, which you can do with both WordPress and Squarespace very easily, you just pay for it. Make sure that you also get a Gmail address with that domain name because it looks more professional for business cards, for contact brochures, for anytime you tell somebody to contact you. It just looks better if you have like a hello at your domain name or contact at your domain name. And then you can also have different, as you grow, you might have different things like marketing at your domain name, publishing at your domain name, like different things, right? So get your Gmail, get your domain name, and get your website started. Some of the must-haves that you need to have on your website, because you can have a very simple website, but there's a couple of things, 3 things actually, that I think you absolutely need to have. They're non-negotiable. You need an about page where you tell people about yourself as an author. This is basically your biography. A picture of yourself is nice. If you are writing a pen name and you don't want to show a picture of you, what you could do is have an illustrator draw something that represents you. I would have something that's somewhat relatable and not just leave it blank, because people do want to have like a face to a book, kind of relate who they're reading. But if you don't want to show your face, that's totally fine too. Just have a caricature of yourself, a drawing, an illustration, whatever. You want to have a page that has all of your books and obviously have all the links to your books. The whole point of your website is to be a hub where you direct people, and then from there they can go and buy all your different books, right? It's kind of like a little meaning place of everything about you as an author. So your about page and then your book page with all the links. And then the last thing that I think is absolutely non-negotiable for any author, or pretty much any business that you market, is a newsletter, somewhere where you can subscribe people. Both WordPress and Squarespace integrate really well with very popular newsletter providers like MailChimp, MailerLite, all of those. But take a look and see if there's added charges, if you need to code something in, it usually doesn't look as clean, and just see how you can get people to provide their email address somewhere on your website, usually either on the homepage, in the footer, or pretty much on every page. You want to have a place where you collect people's emails, because that is going to be your direct link to your readers. And you want to get started on that very early on, and always kind of push for that newsletter, but make sure the newsletters that you send out, that you provide value. There's different things to say about newsletters, and that's a whole other thing. But make sure that somewhere on your website, you are pushing and promoting your newsletter. Other things you might want to consider. Some things that are just not non-negotiable, but nice to have for your website. Things like signed copies. So an online shop, if you're going to be offering signed copies that you are selling yourself to people and you're sending them out, that's another thing you have to think about when you're building your website. So this could actually define whether you're going with like Squarespace, WordPress, or you might go Shopify. You might even have an Etsy shop to sell signed copies. But if you want to keep everything under the same roof, which I always recommend, you want to have a shopping hub. Oh, sorry if you can hear that. There's some construction happening and somebody is just buzzing around, and so I have to stop for a second. It sounds like a bee. It's not a bee. Thank God. Bees are not fun. But anyways, if you're having signed copies, if you're selling signed copies, you want to have a way to sell those copies to your readers, to collect their money online in a safe and secure way. Which is why I go with Squarespace for my personal author website, just because it's very easy to have a shop, an online shop there. The fees that they take for each purchase is fairly reasonable. I believe it's around like 3%, which is pretty much what anybody else takes online for any online shop. It's a lot less than what Etsy takes for sellers. So it seems easier. And it's very easy to set up. You set them up as like little listings. Everything is in there. It's just very, very no-brainer kind of shop setup. So think about that when you're thinking about who you're going with. I haven't set up a shopping central kind of page on WordPress in a while, but the last time that I had to do it, I do recall that it was fairly difficult, and there was like a lot of coding that I had to do to get it to look and behave the same way that I wanted to, because WordPress was originally like a blog friendly site. It's not necessarily as easily set up for these types of things. Then on the selling portion as well, like another nice to have and something to consider is if you're going to be selling direct. I don't sell ebooks direct right now. I mean, obviously, my books were acquired, and so I'm not selling them at all. However, before they were, when I was fully indie, I did not sell ebooks direct. I do know some authors that do it and swear by it. So if that's something you want to be doing, then that's also something to take into consideration, because like, how do you do it? Where will you store it? How would you deliver it? There's a lot of things that you need to think about, and not every website provider can accommodate something like that. And now into the nitty gritty. Your main page. This is the first landing page, your home page that people land on when they first type in that domain name that you got, and they click enter, and then now it's your world and they're in it. You want to make sure that this main page is absolutely clear and it has all the information. What I like to do is a short little bit of everything, because I have a lot of books. What I do is I usually have like all my books either at the top or somewhere in the central, kind of the images of the covers, and people can click on them and go to that specific book. I also have a very short version of my bio on there with a picture of me, so people know who they're working with or about to read. I currently have a division, so I have one section that leads people to my young adult books and one section that leads them to my cozy mysteries. And then I have a few snippets here and there of what the books are about. Now, I've recently consolidated and I've taken those snippets and I put them under the young adult and the cozy mystery sections. But before I started writing cozy mysteries and I only had all young adult books, what I had was kind of sections for each series that I wrote with snippets on every single book and their cover, all on my homepage. So if you scroll down, you can see all of my books, a little bit about me, and then all of my books straight down with breaks for newsletter signups and things like that. Then at the bottom, I have my social media kind of in the footer. So if you have that, add that in there so they can click. Not everybody does, but some people do. You want to make sure that you don't have any large images anywhere on your website. Large images take a very long time to load, and if somebody has to wait for an image to load on your website, chances are they're going to click right off and they're going to leave. You also want to think about privacy policy. So that's not something you're advertising. It's not in your main menu, but your photo should have a link to a privacy policy page. You can get some really good templates done for free online. Just type in privacy policy generator for authors, or just privacy policy generator for Squarespace or for WordPress or whatever site you're building this on. You definitely want to make sure that that's in there. This is like a legal requirement in some areas, and it's better to have it than not to have it. It's basically you letting people know what you're going to be using their IPs and their emails and everything for. For the most part, you're telling them that you're not selling their emails or any of their personal information, that if they check out through your shopping page, if you're selling copies, that you don't store their credit card information or any of that stuff. A lot of times privacy policies, like for example, my shopping page, my privacy policy will also have a link that will take them to the privacy policy for Stripe, which is how I collect money for signed copy purchases on my Squarespace sites. So think about adding that in there because it is important and it kind of covers your butt from every angle, really. You want to make sure your website is easy to navigate. I think that is a given. Don't make it complicated. Don't make people search for the menu. Don't make people search to figure out how to contact you. Have everything kind of like a main menu that's always on top. Make it sticky. Sticky menu means that when they're scrolling down, if you have a very long homepage or any other pages, that menu is always stuck to the top of the page. If they're mobile, they will always have a little drop down, usually it's 3 lines or something like that. And that little drop down is always there at the top of the page. You want people to always be able to click on things around your website to take them to different parts of your website, because the point is you want to keep them on there as long as possible, because the longer they're on there, the more they're seeing images of your books, little short stories about your books, little snippets, blurbs, and most importantly, all the buttons you put on there to click them so they can go and buy your books. And then the last thing that you really want to think about when you're considering your author website is whether or not you're going to have a blog. I don't have a blog as an author. I should probably, I just don't have time to also blog. If you're starting out, when I was starting out, I had a blog. I would consider it, if this is the first time you're building your website, I would consider adding a blog on there just to kind of get the momentum going, give people a destination, a reason, and it also gives you something to promote on social media and ideas for posts, right? So you can always pull from your blog posts. It is more time consuming, but when you are first starting out, it gives you more material to work with. I I currently find that I don't necessarily need to have a blog to kind of get people to go to my website. Usually it's, I release often enough. I have enough information about my books. I have other different business ventures that I'm doing. So there's always something for me to talk about. But if you're struggling to think of things to post on social media for reasons to drive people to your website, a blog is a really good idea. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So your author website can be very, very simple. I mean, it could just be like an about you, like I said, your books, newsletter, and maybe a blog if you decide to go that way. So it doesn't have to be anything super complicated. I know it can be intimidating when you're thinking about like building your own website, but trust me, once you get started, the basic website is very easy to build, and then you can slowly add to it. The one thing I should say is whatever you're doing for your website, make sure it's branded. Don't have like super bright, happy colors if you write dark fantasy, for example, or if you write horror or something like that, and vice versa. Don't have like deep purples and moody shades if you write like very cozy, happy romance, So make sure your website colors, your fonts, the way everything kind of looks when you see it, make sure it's branded, that it looks exactly the way that you want to portray yourself as an author or your pen name or your books. So everything has to mesh and work together. If you look at my website, it's very like dark, kind of, there's got dark blues. There's always some sort of blue in most of my covers. Most of my covers are usually on the darker side. They're very paranormal-esque. And so I went with like a dark navy color. Same with this channel, same branding, and then like a little bit of that like mustardy gold color because I really like the combination of the two. It really spoke to literature for me, but I also made it kind of like mystery, magic, moody. I could have gone the purple route, which is fairly popular, but I kind of went in a way, I wanted to steer clear of like the purple shades that are very, very popular for paranormal author websites right now, just because it made me stand out a little bit. It made me feel like I was standing out a little bit more, and it kind of gave me my own identity. And it spoke more to my books and their covers and just kind of like what I felt resonated with me. So make sure your website resonates with you, because you're going to be looking at it a lot, especially when you're building it. So it has to be something you enjoy. And that's all I have for author tips for you today. So I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know if there's any other author tips or that you want to see videos on, if you have any questions for me whatsoever. And I don't know if you can see, but Glitter Fritter has been up now. I've been adding some more listings and stuff, and I just added a new listing this week. So make sure you check it out if you also like really cute art by yours truly, and some cute stationery and stickers and stuff. So that's my little plug, shameless self-promotion plug for Glitter Fritter, my new shop. I'm just so happy with it. But yeah, as always, thank you guys for being here, and thank you for subscribing if you are a subscriber, and stay magical, enjoy the summer, and I will see you next week. Bye.